At the latest Oscars, there were a number of huge contenders for the major awards. You had the breathtaking sci-fi spectacle of Dune Part 2, the musical box office juggernaut of Wicked, as well as Adrian Brody's wonderfully led period drama, The Brutalist. However, despite coming in a year with such stiff competition, there was one clear winner of the night.
Anora.
With the film picking up 5 wins out of 6 nominations, including Best Director, Best Actress, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Film Editing, whilst also picking up the biggest and most highly coveted award, Best Picture. So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing how the film was able to achieve so much adulation, and ultimately, what made the film so special. And just for a heads up, this discussion will include spoilers. Anora is a 2024 comedy drama written, directed and edited by Sean Baker, the filmmaker who created the acclaimed indie hits The Florida Project and Tangerine. Starring Mikey Madison in the titular role, the film tracks the blossoming romance between Anora, a New York stripper, and Vanya, the wealthy son of a Russian oligarch, who's in the country to have fun, party, and make the most of his final few weeks before he leaves to work with his father. Ever since the Cannes Film Festival in May last year, hype for the film has been gradually building, with the film receiving massive acclaim there, taking the festival's top prize, the Palme d'Or. Critics were enamoured with Anora, with the film rocking a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating of 8.5 out of 10. Unsurprisingly, the film has also been a commercial success, grossing $52 million worldwide, on a modest budget of just $6 million, making the film a huge win for the distributor Neon, whilst also making it the highest grossing film of Baker's career. In fact, Sean Baker actually broke the record for the number of Oscars picked up for a single film, with him taking home 4 wins on the night, surpassing Walt Disney's long-held record. And to me, it's easy to understand why Anora has been so successful, as it's got so much going for it, in particular, the performances. Inevitably, you've got to talk about Mikey Madison, who absolutely crushes it in the lead role. She's simply sensational, and completely lost herself in the role. This is the first time I've seen her work, but I've heard good things about her ever since she starred in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The actress shows such commitment to the role, exuding nothing but ultra confidence during the especially raunchy first act of the film. Despite being utterly convincing in a portrayal as a stripper, Madison had to learn how to perform the role completely from scratch, with not even any dance experience prior. And fair play to her, as she well and truly killed it, giving a performance that could have fooled you into thinking she'd been doing it for years. If her acting career hadn't gone well, she could have definitely made a killing working at a strip club. But after her Oscar win, I've got a feeling that she's going to have a lot of acting work coming her way. She'll be able to pick and choose her projects, and rightfully so. I've watched interviews with Mikey Madison since watching the film, and seeing how completely different she is, so sweet, so endearing, it just made me appreciate her performance even more. What a talent. Playing opposite her is Mark Adelstein as Vanya, an excitable man-child who falls for Anora after a week of excess and debauchery. He's not as much of a scene stealer as Madison, but I really do believe that his performance has gone under the radar, as he's excellent in the role. He's able to portray the character's infectious energy effortlessly, to the point where it's hard to imagine the actor not being like the character. Him and Madison have such wonderful on-screen chemistry, and they really do bounce off each other, figuratively and literally. This made the film feel so much more believable, as if his performance as Vanya wasn't as convincing, then the film could have fallen flat. Even with Madison performing at such a high level, it required both to be firing on all cylinders. After meeting at Anora's strip club, Vanya takes a liking to her, and begins paying her big money to have sex with him at his luxurious mansion, which she is more than happy to do. He enjoys the company so much that he invites her to come away with him for a week in Las Vegas, paying her 15 grand for a time, where they can party with his friends, have sex, and have the time of their lives, which leads to them impulsively deciding to get married there. Anora sees this relationship as an escape from her life as a stripper, and she begins to genuinely like him. He's exposing her to a type of fun-loving lifestyle full of excess that she's never experienced before. Granted, the relationship certainly doesn't feel deep, but they've undeniably got chemistry, which makes for great viewing. This first act of the film feels like it's going in a more cliched rom-com route. You feel like you know where it's going, but once the newly married couple return from their Las Vegas adventure, and word gets out that Vanya has married a prostitute, as she's so commonly called, the tone of the film switches up almost instantly. As soon as the Armenians, who work for Vanya's dad, turn up, the film basically becomes a full-on, zany, almost slapstick comedy. Like, it's wild how it suddenly changes, but it's even wilder due to the fact that it completely works. It still feels natural to the film, but most importantly, it's fucking hilarious. I had no idea that the film was going to be so funny, but it ended up being potentially the funniest film I saw all last year. My favourite moment is when Anora starts screaming rape, as she wants to get attention from people outside, and the Armenians are baffled as to why she's doing it. Toros' reaction was priceless and had me in tears. In fact, for me, Toros was the comedic highlight of the film. He's got so many comical moments. He's written brilliantly, but it's the delivery of everything he does which makes it that much funnier. So Karen Karagulian definitely deserves credit for elevating the material. A key strength of the film is undoubtedly how authentic everything feels. The dialogue especially showcases this, as they have real, everyday conversations that you usually wouldn't see in films. It's raw and unfiltered, but even with regards to the strip club, everything feels genuine and less glamorised than you typically see. Sean Baker definitely did his research when it came to this, but the only surprising thing about it is that when going to strip clubs in preparation for the film, he actually went with his wife. I bet that was a little awkward. To ensure the film felt authentic, there were a number of real-life strippers in the cast who could give the feedback on whether certain aspects of the film felt real. This has been a key feature throughout Sean Baker's filmography, as they often feel grounded in reality, like you see in a slice of life, typically highlighting the experience of marginalised or less focused on groups. This is even in regards to the film's side characters, with Sean Baker instead writing characters with an extra level of depth and care. This is especially the case with the two Armenians, Igor and Garnik, who are there to ensure that Vanya stays out of trouble. They look like your typical Eastern European tough guys. These type of characters would usually be nothing but an afterthought in a film like this, with them being given little to do and no nuance to the characters. But in Anora, they feel real, like actual people. In fact, I ended up actually feeling a bit sorry for them, as they're in a really difficult position. They're just there doing the job, and they don't want any hassle. Vanya calls them his father's monkeys, which shows his attitude towards them, and Anora continues with this same show of disdain towards them. But to my surprise, a lot of the film's purest moments and humanity comes from the Armenians, especially with Igor, who despite being attacked, bitten and insulted throughout, shows moments of kindness and heart. Yuri Borisov as Igor gives a delightfully understated, nuanced, but unquestionably emotional performance. I was surprised to see him pick up a Best Supporting Actor nomination, but I was delighted for him, as he was a big highlight of the film for me. Throughout the film, we're shown that Igor genuinely cares for Anora. He admires her attitude, her ballsy nature, and he doesn't appreciate how she's treated by the rich Russian family. No matter what she does or says to him, he shows her kindness, and that's after saying some of the most horrible things possible to him. She constantly thinks the worst of him, assuming that he's a monster and a rapist. She thinks that he would only look at her as an object for sex, because deep down, she feels that's all she's worth. So she can't comprehend him actually being nice to her, and even rejects him for bringing her a scarf in case she gets cold, assuming that he has an agenda. And it's no surprise that she feels this way, as that's what her life as a stripper has essentially taught her. Even Vanya only wants her for a bit of fun. It's hardly a deep connection. He pays her for a time and then abandons her once his parents arrive, barely putting up a fight. Practically everyone she comes across talks to her like she's scum, or just a piece of meat. Everyone apart from Igor, who accepts her for who she is. Once Vanya and Anora have gone their separate ways, tonally, the film changes again, with it becoming more of a quiet and intimate drama. Igor is tasked with helping Anora to collect her things and take her home. Whilst doing this, he tries to get to know her on a deeper level, but she's still so angry and resentful that she can't accept anything he does or says. It's not that she's indifferent to hurting his feelings, she actively wants to, which is surprisingly hard to watch, and at times, particularly heartbreaking. This is especially the case in the much talked about final scene, when after giving her wedding ring back, she's still having doubts about his intentions. While sat in his car, she says,
"This car is very you."
To which he says,
"Do you like it?"
After taking a moment to think, she says,
"No."
I found this particularly moving, as you could sense the sadness from his face, especially when you consider it's his grandmother's car. It was one last fuck you to a character that, despite certainly not being innocent, had shown care for Anora throughout, and had her back. With Anora unsure about how to respond to Igor for returning her wedding ring, she defaults to a typical reaction by giving him sex as a reward, as that's all she's used to. Men wanting her for a body. It's purely transactional. You gave me the ring, I'll give you sex. But he's not interested in just sex. He grabs her by the head, wanting to kiss her, but she can't accept that he's being authentic and loving towards her, so she starts hitting him, before bursting into tears and crying in his arms. She's completely overwhelmed by everything. All throughout the film, she's been objectified, put down by everyone, told she isn't worthy of being with Vanya. But here, she's with a man who genuinely values her, and it's not just for her body. She's put on a front of being strong and fearless, as though the events of the film haven't fazed her. But now she's in the company of a man who accepts her for who she truly is, and she succumbs to her emotions. This final shot lasts over 3 minutes, and there's been a lot of speculation about its meaning, and I'm sure you'll have your own opinions of what it truly meant, but for me, it was a beautiful way to end the film, and packed a real emotional punch. What a fantastic film. A huge amount of credit must be given to Sean Baker for this film, as for me, it's his best work. Anora could have easily been just a fun rom-com, a raunchy Pretty Woman, like so many claimed it was like, but it's so much more. The film has so much depth, and it takes a real talent to be able to mesh so many different tones and genres into one film, without it feeling disjointed, and it all works terrifically. He directed the shit out of this, so major props to Sean Baker, and I've got no complaints with it winning Best Picture. The film gets 2 big thumbs up from me, as it's definitely worth watching. So, what did you think of Anora? And of the films nominated for Best Picture, what do you think deserved it the most? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time for another video. Goodbye.